Big Kel
Big Kel
and Kahuna
and Kahuna
podcast.
podcast. Mwah. For sure.
Hey,
Welcome to episode 14 of Big Kel.
And Kahuna.
I'm Kelly.
And I'm Alec. And I finally got the introduction right.
There you
after
go.
This time.
We finally got it right. So with that, as we normally do, we'll recap last episode. There's just two things that we'll recap. The first one is we'll start with F1 recap, and we'll go into that discussion, and then we'll do that social experiment update, and then we'll go the rest of the way. So
we had some predictions about Melbourne.
Yeah. My guy won.
Yeah. My guy got second. Sainz did not do as well as I thought he was going to do, and he did even worse in China.
Yeah. Piastri what did Piastri do in Melbourne? He fell down the pack because he spun out, right? He came in ninth.
He spun out. He may not have even got points. Let me see.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I thought he was in second place and he spun out and he wasn't able to recover.
But as Piastri, why can't I find Piastri?
Well, as you're looking at that, the one thing about that Melbourne race I liked is, and this is where NASCAR.
Oh, he got ninth. You're right.
Yeah, ninth. NASCAR and the other things aren't the same. These guys race in rain.
Yep. NASCAR, they delay it. IndyCar, they even delay it.
Yeah. Well, they'll delay this if there's thunder or if it's a torrential downpour where they have no traction.
Yeah, they'll red flag it if it's dangerous.
Yeah, I've never seen it red flag for rain. Although they do it.
Yeah.
But so what was it? 6 of the 20 did not finish. Only 14 were left. It was some good strategy. I thought your guy was actually going to do better, but
he always does better in the wet.
I think there's a problem with the Red Bull car
I think
this
so
year.
too. I don't think they have overtake capability to the level they had last year.
Yeah, and we'll get to it later about the Constructor Series.
But you texted me, I think, like 10 laps into the race, and you said, I think only 14 cars are going to finish, and you were absolutely correct.
Dead on, yeah.
Only 14 cars finished.
And what's the kid in Visa Cash App Racing Bull? The rookie? Hadjar. He wiped out in
and Antonelli is the Mercedes guy.
Formation lap.
Yeah, he started crying, right?
And he started crying, and they gave him shit for crying. Listen, Tom Hanks had a great line in that baseball movie. There's no crying in baseball. There's no crying in F1.
There's no crying in sports.
Now, the kid did redeem himself because I think he qualified 8 this week. But we'll get to the rookie drivers in a moment. But
qualified.
Yeah, but the Melbourne race was enjoyable. First race of the season. When it rains, anything can happen when it rains. You catch a spin out, and then you're done. And that's what happened to Piastri. I think he was in 2. He spun out, and he just couldn't get back. It was the
second to last corner.
Yeah, he just couldn't get back. So we'll go with that. Now, we did both watch the sprint
race,
and that's where your boy Hamilton actually won it.
He's not my boy. No, he had a good SQ qualifying time. His left front grained up pretty quickly because when they race in China, it's usually in the evening.
Yeah.
And this was midday,
right.
So the tires
started
to degrade
quick,
faster.
Yeah, but they all degraded,
But
right?
Hamilton is, and I think one of the commentators even said this, he's the master of tire management.
Oh, yes, he is.
And Verstappen's tires degraded worse than his. And it
that's
got to the point where he got overtaken by Piastri. So it was Hamilton, Piastri, Verstappen.
Well, that's the funny thing. I mean, Verstappen runs hard, so you expect him to work on those tires because you're in and out of the corners quicker.
Yeah.
But Hamilton was just a beast as on the sprint yesterday as Verstappen, but he manages it just a little bit better.
Yeah.
And it was good enough. Now, I don't think it's going to be good enough in the race. So then we watched qualifying this morning. And who's up front? Lando's up front?
I think it's Lando, Verstappen,
Russell, then
Piastri.
Yeah.
But you know what's weird? And Hamilton has petitioned this. Other drivers have petitioned this before.
What's that?
It's especially prevalent on tracks such as Monaco with a short a short straightaway to the first right turn.
Yeah.
If you're taking a right turn and the grid's lined up where P1 starts left,
P2's better position.
P2 has an advantage.
Yeah.
That it should. I understand it's.
Well, they don't flip-flop positions,
I
right?
understand it's consistent throughout all the tracks, but I really think if your track starts with a right-hand turn, P1 in the grid should be on the right-hand side of the track.
It should
Now,
be, but that's where strategy comes in.
Because if you're going to the right, off the start, the racing line starts right and then meanders left. So the person in P1 on a right-hand turn track starts off the racing line.
Right. Well, that's why we saw last year a few times that when people were falling back not to get the pole.
I think Verstappen intentionally took second instead of pole one time.
Well, but the beauty of it is
got the guy on the first turn.
The guy that's sitting in the 4 spot, right, which is Piastri, I think has an advantage, especially when McLaren to Mercedes. I think he has advantage on this than Russell, but we'll see.
But those Ferraris are looking hot on this track, man.
Yeah. So
and the Red Bulls. We'll get into Liam Lawson, the Red Bull, because he's effectively the whole team at this point. He doesn't have the overtake capability that he has last year.
I don't think he can.
And I don't know
drive
if
the
it's
car.
the fact because Red Bull petitioned the FIA that teams akin to McLaren had a flexi wing, so their back wing were flexed to give a mini DRS.
Yeah.
And FIA said they were only going to outlaw it halfway through this season. So I don't know if Red Bull put any engineering into having their own equivalent of a flexi wing or not, but man, I mean, they still have the cornering speed, but they don't have the straight line speed they used to.
Right. So the number one team by far looks like it's McLaren. No one's even close to McLaren now.
Which is good because McLaren's my second favorite team.
Now number 2 is Mercedes or Ferrari. And number 4 is Red Bull. Right now, the way it sits.
Well, here's the question. Do you think that rookie Antonelli is better than Leclerc in the current cars?
Oh, no. He measures against Hamilton. Russell measures against Leclerc. Leclerc's the number 1 driver on Ferrari. It is not Hamilton.
Yeah.
Now, we could go right into it if you want to pull it.
Well,
we could do a rookie recap because I think that Anatoly kid for Mercedes.
Andretti. No.
I thought, what's his name again?
What the heck is his name? Antonelli.
But
I want to touch
he's the best of the 6.
I want to touch 2 more things on Formula One.
Okay.
And I know they're rivals, but I don't know why they went with Antonelli. Why didn't when Mercedes found out that Ferrari was poaching Hamilton, why didn't they just do the obvious and poach Sainz? Because I know he's not in their young F2 performance.
Yeah, but this kid's
rookie
not bad.
Driver team.
Somebody else should have got signs, but that kid's 18 or 19. He's got potential.
Why are you wearing shoes down here?
I didn't take them off.
And then the other thing before we get into the rookies, because you have the names of the rookies.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I do.
Because I didn't know any of these guys until a week ago. Because there's 8. I think there's 8 or 9.
There's 6 racing.
Okay, well, we were talking about this earlier. Liam Lawson.
He's a problem
First
for Red
race,
Bull.
he qualified P20. For the sprint race, he qualified P20. Started P19 because they changed Hülkenberg's suspension, so he started from the pit lane. But if he keeps this
and he qualified 20 for the race.
Yeah.
For this race.
Yeah. So that's 3
he won't be there.
number 20 qualifyings in a row.
He won't be there. I think Christian Horner, look, if Christian Horner's the guy that you expect him to be.
I mean, they booted Ricardo quickly.
Liam Lawson is not going to be. If he throws goose eggs 3 times in a row, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But if it's a goose egg and you're 11, 12, 13, that's different. This kid's 18, 19, 20.
Yeah.
And as we talked about it, Sonoda, who's actually a top 7, 8 driver right now. Yeah. Or 6.
He's
I think
the
he's
reserve
6.
driver.
He's the reserve driver.
Because the Visa Cash App Racing Bulls are the child team of Red Bull, as all you guys know, and I'm sure the guy who told me to never speak about Formula One also knows.
Yeah, well,
but if they pull Sonoda, they probably throw Liam Lawson with Hadjar. And you know what I find funny? I bet you Hadjar is still better than Liam Lawson.
He is.
He's already better than him in the B-grade car.
As long as he doesn't cry anymore. But that's the key. I think if Christian Horner's the guy he wants to be, there's a lot of pressure for them to get into constructor series, right?
Yeah.
But if he throws only a single car for 3 races, that's the problem, because he's not going to catch McLaren because they're going to do well. He's going to fall behind Mercedes with that rookie doing well, and he's definitely going to fall behind Ferrari with Hamilton and Leclerc, provided nobody's crashing.
Top 3 constructors teams, I think, after 5 races, which is when I anticipate plus or minus a race,
Yep.
Tsunoda replaces Lawson,
Yeah.
will be, I'm calling it now, it's not a profound prediction. McLaren 1, Mercedes 2, Ferrari 3.
I'd agree with you.
Red Bull might not even be 4.
Well, who's going to be better, though? Because Alpine, they couldn't even get guys out of Q3.
Red Bull's going to be 4 just with...
Yeah, I thought Gasly was better, but he had a terrible showing in the
he wasn't
qualifying.
doing so good.
Alpine's not any good. The Alfa, the Aston Martin, they look like dog shit.
Yeah, I don't
today.
know what's going on with them at this race.
And Haas sucks. And what's that green team?
Kick Sauber.
Kicks up. They suck.
Yeah.
And Williams looks like they're sucking again. You know?
They got both in the points in Australia, I think.
Well,
right?
they ain't get shit qualifying this time.
Yeah, I know, but let me just
No,
double check.
Sainz didn't finish. He
yeah, you're right.
He
Sainz
crashed
got
out.
But Albon got 5th.
Yeah. But they got to do more than just one guy in the top 10. So that's a problem.
All right, you want to go into your rookies?
Yeah, real quick though. I think the podium is going to be Lando, Verstappen, and Russell.
You know what? I'm gonna
And Piastri, but Piastri could be in there too. But I'll have him at 4,
I'm
3 or
gonna
4.
go against my own favorite racer. I will say I enjoy Verstappen as a racer. He's a little crybaby, little pompous boy outside of racing,
Uh-huh.
but he has the right to do that.
Sure.
And he married PK's daughter,
Oh.
or he's about to.
I didn't know
Nelson
that.
PK's daughter is his girlfriend or wife.
All
But
right.
I'm gonna go. You said Norris would be first.
I think Norris is going to win this.
You know, I'm gonna change it up. I say Russell, Piastri, Verstappen.
Okay. Well, I will bet good
Norris,
money
Hamilton.
that those 3 plus Norris and Hamilton, those 5 will be the top 3.
Well, I'll guarantee
unless
you.
something catastrophic happens.
Yeah, unless there's a failure or a collision, a Red Bull and a McLaren, or Verstappen and a McLaren will be in the top 3.
Right. Okay, so let's go through the rookies. We'll talk real quick. First one, Isaac Hadjar. He looked terrible, with that crash in a formation lap. But he actually didn't look too bad in the sprint, and he qualified okay.
That's the Racing Bull?
Yeah, I'd put him as the number 3 guy because he doesn't have any points, 3 out of 6.
Okay.
My number 1 is that Kimi Antonelli guy,
What team is he on?
Mercedes.
Okay.
I think the Mercedes rookie is by far number 1. And then you look at, I keep going down the list because I want to be able to say their names. Oliver Berman from Haas.
Second to last. I put him 5th.
Yeah, I'd put him 5th. Jack Dohan from Alpine. I'd put him ahead of, I'd put him 3.
Okay.
And then you got Gabriele Bortatelli from Sauber. He's 5. And for me, the worst rookie driver,
we said-
although he's not technically a
You said
rookie.
Berman was 5.
Okay, well then Berman's 4, he's 5. The worst rookie driver, although he's technically not a rookie because he had a couple years, but they still consider him one because he doesn't have a full season.
Mm-hmm.
I think Leon Lawson's the biggest disappointment out of the bunch.
He's not a rookie.
Well,
He was there
I consider,
last year.
yeah, but he only did how many races?
But we're missing. We are missing. We
No.
said Bortello.
Yeah, I got them all.
We said Berman. We said Antonelli.
Yeah,
We said Hadjar. We
Yep.
said Dohan.
Yep.
Okay.
they consider him a
Lawson's
rookie.
not technically a rookie. He had I think he had a full season with
I don't
Racing
think.
Bull last
Yeah,
year.
well, we'll see. I don't think he did, but
Whatever.
if he's not a rookie, he sucks worse than the rookies,
Yeah.
which
You
is even
know-
worse. And it makes Red Bull look like shit. That because Tsunoda was complaining that they didn't lift him up, and you know what? He's got total rights.
Did you see who Ferrari's reserve driver was? I'll give you a hint.
Yes,
He was doing a lot
Johan
of
Yu.
press. Joe Guan Yu.
Zhou Guang Yu. Let me see. Yeah, Tsunoda.
That reminds me.
Tsunoda's got 3 points, but Tsunoda's only got 3 points. Now he was in the mid-pack guy last time.
His name reminds me. There's Death Loops. Live Die Repeat Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
When you die and you have to restart,
Yeah.
but you learn something.
Kind of like Groundhog Day.
Yeah, or that Death Loop game I played.
Yeah,
that,
or there's some
arcade
movie with
game.
a girl who keeps getting killed every time.
Yeah, on the cruise ship.
Yeah, I don't remember what it is.
That
but-
I saw that one recently. There's another one called Primer, but there's one called Boss Level. This guy always has to fight these people because it's a Deathloop movie. It's free on Hulu. Just watch it. Hardcore Henry, watch that too. That's good. That was
Okay.
one of my movies.
All right.
But there's this one person he always has to fight against, and it's this
Right.
Asian woman who always decapitates him. She's like, "My name is Guan Yu, and Guan Yu has done this."
There you go. There you go. All right. So what we'll do is we're going to go to current affairs real quick. Hey, listen.
We should make this a weekly topic.
No, the TDS, Trump derangement syndrome / Elon derangement syndrome is alive and well.
/ enhanced schizophrenia.
Look, man, all I need to say is the liberal left, to include the Democrat political leaders, are making this shit so easy.
I know. We're now having to decide between 3 to 5 people a week who are bitches of the week.
It's just crazy, man. This mental breakdown and lack of civility and just
And
stupidity.
logic and reason.
That Tim Waltz guy, I'm going to talk about him later. But what a buffoon. You wonder why Kamala Harris and the Democrats lost. Now, aside from everything with her, he's just an idiot.
Yeah.
And did you see how
Well,
he
he said
said
he was the head coach. He was an assistant coach. He said he served. He quit before deploying.
he's a liar?
Yeah.
And I like the fact where he said, yeah, so this is what I was talking to your grandma about today. Who would have thought 6 months ago that the center left representative of the liberal Democratic Party would be Gavin Newsom? He is now. I
Him
think
and Fetterman.
yeah.
Fetterman's right leaning now.
Yeah, but I'll get to that in a second. I think Gavin Newsom is a slime ball.
I
think
say whatever he needs to say.
he's a political beast that will do what he has to do. However, he's reading. He has to disassociate himself from the knuckleheads going on, trans in sports, all this goofy shit, protecting those gang members from the
Tren de la
deportation.
Aguas,
This is ridiculous. So it's
who were cutting off fingers
Yeah.
of people in a roar who called the cops.
the bigger thing is that the Democratic Party does not have somebody that they could rally around. Now, I do like this one guy because he's very thoughtful, and he's not playing this shit. Is that Ro Khanna guy out of California? He speaks logically, and I'll be honest and I'll tell you, and I'll apologize. I thought Fetterman, like I said the last time, I bought the propaganda hook, line, and
He had a
sinker.
stroke, right?
that he was a goofball.
Well, he
But you
dresses
know
like
what?
one.
I don't care what people dress like, except for when you go
If
see
you're
the
going to the
president.
chambers of commerce, why are you wearing an oversized sweater and gym shorts?
The only person I have issue with is Zelensky. But I told you, whenever they sign a deal, he'll be in a suit. I'll bet you $1 on that.
Yeah, we have
But
that
but
bet.
Fetterman understands the constituency and the logic and all this nonsense. So I'll give him that. But the Democrats are just making this way too easy.
Did we talk about Bukele last week?
Yeah, we did. We love the guy.
And Trump said when he announced the F-47, talking about the Tren de la Agua guys, he said, they don't seem so scary when they have their heads down and their heads get shaken.
No, that's true. That's true. Now, do you know somebody floated, because it was in the press, that, and we could go on to the next one, which is crazy Karens or crazy Chads. All these knuckleheads that are
We need a
doing the
different name than Chad.
vandalism stuff for Tesla.
Yeah.
First, a couple things that we should point out. First off, for all of you dumbasses that are in liberal land that don't understand this, those Teslas all have cameras.
Well, let me say something before we get into it. 6 months ago, in California especially, liberals were touting how Teslas were going to save the world and it's electric cars or nothing.
Right.
Fast forward to today, they're burning Teslas with the understanding that those lithium-ion batteries don't go out. One of them just put a swastika on a Jewish guy's Cybertruck.
No, but it tells you, Alec, the same thing as Senator Kelly from Arizona, right? These guys are so deranged that they will vacate the existential threat of climate to now push hatred. So wait a second. I thought climate was the biggest thing that we had to deal with.
It's an existential threat, according to Greta Thunberg.
Well, apparently it goes away now. Now it's all virtue signaling and all this nonsense. So here's a public service announcement for you dumbass liberals out there. When you want to vandalize a Tesla, make sure you understand they have cameras on the outside of them.
Put some gloves on.
Yeah, but they'll pick you up. I've seen countless, things that people key in cars, spray paint cars. They pick you up.
And the cops pick them up in 10 minutes, and they go, "I didn't do that."
And now I'm seeing.
Sure, here's you at 4 different angles.
And now I'm seeing dumbasses that are keying Rivians.
Yeah.
Which ain't got nothing to do with Tesla. That just tells you how stupid these people are. Oh, and the worst thing I saw. Now, I what they're doing is, I think, domestic terrorism, blowing stuff up at the Tesla dealership. But the grossest thing I saw one of these crazy male Karens do is he was ass palming the charging station.
I saw that. He's rubbing his crack and
and for those of you, Mallrats is the movie where the one guy was ass palming and shook his girlfriend's dad's hand. That's why he puts his hand under his butt cheeks, greases it up with fecal matter, and then puts it all over the chargers. That's a health violation. Not to mention it's vandalism.
What happened to the good old days where crackheads addicted to fentanyl would just destroy them and take the copper?
Yeah. So listen, Trump derangement syndrome, Elon derangement syndrome, Karen's gone crazy. Whatever the guy is, we'll call him Chads until we come up with a different name.
A new name, because Chad has a different connotation.
Okay, well, they go crazy.
But I want to say one thing.
And hold on, let me finish. And all this nonsense at the Tesla dealerships, that is just downright terrible. And those kind of activities, when caught, are going to get you a 5 to 20 year range. However, because AG Bondi has declared it domestic terrorism, that means they're going to have to serve the full 20, no chance of parole, and somebody in the administration floated, well, why don't we send these domestic terrorists that do this stuff for Tesla down to your buddy in El Salvador?
They can't go to CCOT.
Wouldn't that be funny?
Well,
they're technically terrorists.
That's inhumane.
Let's send them to Guantanamo.
You can't send American citizens to CCOT.
All right, send them Guantanamo Bay.
Just say Gitmo.
Gitmo.
It's Guantanamo. You know the DSM-5 that lists all the mental health disorders?
Yeah.
You think the DSM-6 will have Trump derangement syndrome in there?
Well, that's hard to quantify that. Because
it's actually not. Just look at someone's Twitter feed.
Yeah, but you got to hook it to a mental issue. They're just unstable. And I'm
it's
sorry to say it. I'm sorry. We said it the last time. Most of these people are older white folk in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s that are going crazy.
Allies to the community.
Crazy. Just crazy. So you're up now. What do you want to talk about? You want to talk about how the Dems are imploding on themselves?
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, we've seen it. It doesn't matter who it is, whether it's Knucklehead AOC or that new Jasmine Crockett, whatever.
I will give AOC credit, though. She is working bipartisan with a Republican to cap credit card interest rates at 10%. I do like that.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. But they're making it so easy. They just are so disorganized. It's comical.
Yeah, all these content creators I see on YouTube, they have a treasure trove of information to make videos about now because it's all being served to them on a silver platter.
Oh, yeah. All these conservative podcast group guys are going crazy. It's funny. You know who I like watching? The two brothers, the African-American brothers.
Hodge twins?
Yeah. Those guys are pretty good if you want to get a good laugh. All right. Well, the next thing we'll talk about real quick is
we got an update on the Bumble situation.
Yeah, why don't you give that one real quick, and then we'll talk about Snow White.
So I'll be brief, but I got some new information from my buddy. He got, I think, close to 100 matches. I think.
All wackadoos, though, right?
Can I finish?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, you don't like it when I say it, do you?
Oh, but you step on me
About
100 times.
50
Keep
of
going.
them messaged him. I think he immediately unmatched 65% of them because they were morbidly obese. Of the 50, he really only found one that was moderate enough to be comfortable with meeting in person. And the night before meeting this woman in person, he told me she wanted to do a phone call, and she had a checklist for him. She had a checklist on her phone in her notes app that she read out. What are you a feminist? Are you an ally to the black community? Are you a misogynist? What do you think about liberalism? What do you think about an
Palestine,
open marriage?
open
What do you
marriage.
think about Palestine? Are you okay with being
Getting pegged.
with getting pegged? Are you okay with being cucked? All these things, and he was lying through his teeth. And he was telling me about this, and initially he said, I'm still going to go on the date, see what happens. And he was going to take her to this nice sushi restaurant, but he had a come to Jesus moment and texted her a few hours in the morning before the date and said, I don't think this is going to work. I don't think we align on enough issues to meet. I hope you take care of yourself. Very polite. And then 2 days later, he told me that she proceeded to start calling him with spoofed phone numbers, and
Well, he made the right decision.
And what's crazy about these people, their manipulation tactics, he was telling me, this woman in particular, are the manipulation tactic of a 6-year-old. She was just mirroring everything he was saying.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where he said, listen, you got to leave me alone, or I'm going to have to get an emergency protective order on you. And she goes, oh, I'm so-and-so, and I'm going to have to get an emergency protective order on you if you don't leave me alone. And then he just hung up on her, and she texted him in quick succession the same thing. This is the type of person that touts themselves as a spiritual liberal, and this is why it's so hard for me to go on dates, especially in a blue state, with people you find on social media or dating apps, because
All right, you got to tighten this up. We're spending too much time on this nonsense.
You don't find okay, well, you could spend 10 minutes on Trump derangement syndrome. You don't find the creme de la creme on these dating sites.
Of course not.
So just be mindful. Don't give out your home address. Be careful about giving them your actual phone number, because they can do a public record check on you and find out where you live.
Yeah,
So
but
I hope this guy doesn't get stalked.
Look, the bottom line is that it was funny when you talked about last week, but when you entertain crazy, don't be, surprised
That
when
you're gonna get
crazy comes around.
Yeah.
Just so
And
that
not the good kind of crazy.
that might have been a bad social experiment. So hopefully he goes to church and figures something out. Oh, it's just unbelievable. Now I was trying to get to something, and you
Snow
stepped
White.
on me, and I missed. Oh yeah, Snow
I didn't
White.
step on you.
Snow
you let
White.
me talk my story.
So Disney is gonna lose hundreds of millions of dollars on the new Snow
there are
White.
complete theaters that are empty on opening weekend.
Of course. I mean, listen. Let's start with the fact that, and I like Peter Dinklage, and I'm not so sure he's to blame for it. I think Disney's to blame for it, but they were complaining about having midgets, and now the midgets,
Little people.
the dwarfs, they were
But
dwarfs.
Wee Man said something. He said, "Why animate it?" Because they initially gave it to weird-looking people, and then after backlash, they animated them. And Wee Man goes,
I could have
"You're
done the
taking
job.
jobs out
Right.
of the hands of little people."
Right. Well, and that's the hypocrisy in it. They could have easily had characters and actors in there that were little people to play the dwarfs, but instead they want to animate. So that's the problem. Then you got whoever the lead is saying
Rachel Ziegler and
saying-
Gal Gadot, who is not Gal Gadot isn't emotional enough to be a Disney villain.
Yeah. So let me get back to what I was saying. The lady who's leading it was saying F Trump,
Yep.
free Palestine, river to the sea, all that nonsense. And you know what? Gal Gadot, she's from the IDF. She's Israeli.
Yeah.
So-
she might actually be in the idea.
And aside from all that other shit that's, in the movie's dog shit is what I understand.
Yes.
And if you don't believe us, one of Alex's comedians that he likes is Tim Dillon. And Tim Dillon did a great little spoof on his podcast a couple days ago
Perfect
about the
synopsis.
disaster of what it is. Yeah, so check that out and look at it. All right,
There's
where
only one voice about Snow White you should be listening to.
was that?
And
Tim
it's
Dillon?
Tim Dillon.
He hits it dead on. I mean, you can't beat what he says.
He's like, Rachel Ziegler's in Hamas. Gal Gadot's in
The idea.
IDF. It's not going to work.
Right. Plus,
They had to censor Rachel Ziegler. There's back talks
They
about
should.
the press tour she was doing, saying some really dumb shit that was detrimental to the brand.
but this is the problem, and you've seen it with, people like Beyonce and all these people
Cardi B.
that took money to be at, Vice President Kamala's, rallies and so forth. When you look, I don't give a shit what an actor says. The only thing I care about when an actor says when they say stupid shit.
Yeah.
Like I was telling your grandma about, she was saying, oh, this new Robert De Niro movie. And I'm like, Robert De Niro's crazy. He's so far on the left. I am not going to give a cent of my money to him, to Bruce Springsteen. And I did it for years with Tom Cruise. But I did like the one Day After Tomorrow. That was a good one.
And I will say, just to tack on to that, and then we can move on to our boy Ovechkin. I am mature enough to separate the art from the artist.
Yes.
But when it becomes so extreme that it's flagrant, you're not happening. Like
Yeah.
I probably will still go see the new Mission Impossible movie just because I find it funny that Tom Cruise is a Scientologist. Does not mean I
No.
won't watch the movie.
But you got
But
nuts
when you're
like
doing stuff like De Niro or Baldwin or these people
Yeah.
are doing,
well, Baldwin's wife gave him shit for over talking him.
oh, the one who pretends to be Spanish?
Yeah.
I did see that at the red
And
carpet.
she's not.
She dogged
But
him.
John Leguizamo or whatever, he was on The View. He's so super left, it's almost comical. And then you got that Mark Ruffalo guy who played Bruce Banner in the Marvel stuff.
Was he left too?
Oh my goodness, he's so far left.
Dude, in that movie Mickey 17 I told you
Yeah.
about, I told you it's a clone. They're basically taking a colony ship or a big ship to colonize something, but it's run by a failed politician who lost 2 elections, who was played by Mark Ruffalo, who they tried to portray as Trump.
Yeah, it's not
But
that
I
way.
went into it with an open mind, and I did enjoy Mickey 17.
But I like guys personally like Mel Gibson. He
Okay. What
No,
about
no.
his DUI arrest?
Well, that's different. But his point, Justine Bateman, she's a good talking head for a conservative movement. But we'll be enough of that, or we'll be on
Can
here
I say
forever.
one thing about Mel Gibson?
Yeah.
Tim Dillon had something. It was either Tim Dillon or Shane Gillis had something funny. He said, if you're getting arrested for a DUI, you're allowed to talk bad about the Jews.
Yeah, I don't think that's true. But
It's not, but it's funny because they're
Well,
comedians.
yeah, I get it. They're comedians, but I don't think that's funny. All right, let's go to your boy. Alexander Ovechkin is going to
Ovi.
pass the great one probably inside of 5 weeks.
Dude, they already clinched the playoffs.
Yeah, number 1 seed is
Mm-hmm.
well, not yet, but they're number 1 right now. They got to win a couple more games, and they'll be the number
But
1
they have
seed.
a playoff berth.
Oh, yeah, without it. Well, they're the only ones in right now
Yeah.
because they're so far ahead. But he's at 888.
But he, man, is playing like a bat out of hell.
How old
That
is he?
team is
How
playing
old
like
is he?
a bat out of hell. He's got to be in his late 30s.
Yeah, but here's
They
the
said
problem.
he's played over 3 decades.
Yeah, but here's the problem with the Capitals.
He might be in his 40s.
He could be 40, 39, 40.
Let me check.
But here's the problem with the Capitals, and you know this for a long time because they've been your team for years.
They suck in the playoffs. They always get
They-
kicked out
they
by the
choke.
Rangers.
Yeah, well, or the Penguins.
Yeah. He's
So
39 years old.
so let's see if they could get through. But he's at 888, the great one. I actually saw a clip on him and Messier talking shit to people from 20 years ago, where Gretzky's like dropping f-bombs off the bench and everything.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he look. That's why they had Messier and Coffey and all those other guys to protect him, because he wasn't a big guy. He was the best by far. He's the great one. I
Can
think
I-
he's better than Lemieux. Lemieux to me is 2.
Yeah.
You still got Bobby Orr. You got Gordie Howe.
I like Pavel Datsuk in the top 5. He doesn't have the stats for it, but I like his style. Can I say one thing that might be controversial? I think it, and you could tie this into any sport, I think it's more difficult today to score a goal in hockey than it was
Oh,
during the day
without
of
a doubt.
Gretzky.
Without a doubt.
Because correct me if I'm wrong, when Gretzky first started, the goalies didn't even butterfly.
Patrick Waugh and those guys. Some did, but no. You're right.
And
But
they have wooden sticks.
But the old time, so some would argue that it was harder in the old time, but some would also argue that when you were special, you were head and shoulders above the rest. Now, Ovechkin's a great player,
Yeah.
but he is not head and shoulders above his peer group like
Crosby,
Gretzky was.
yeah.
Gretzky was so much better.
And it's the same thing. We can tie it into Formula One. Niki Lauda,
Schumacher.
Schumacher, maybe not. Niki Lauda, Ayrton Senna, the dick that Ayrton Senna would always go against.
Alain Prost.
Alain Prost. They were half
special.
a lap ahead
They were
of the
special.
other people.
They were special.
Nowadays, they were qualifying 5 seconds faster. Nowadays, qualifying is the whole pack is
Right.
condensed within 5-10 seconds of
So,
a lap time.
so if you're
So
great
the margins are smaller.
now, yes, and I'll go back, and people will hate this, but look, I don't care if Barry Bonds was juicing.
No, me neither.
That if you
Baseball,
look, if
who
you
cares?
look at his stats before they say he started juicing like everybody else in the late '80s, '90s, he was still a top 3 player in all the major. The guy can hit. He understands how to hit. He was like Pete Rose. He was like Ted Williams. He was like Tony Gwynn. These guys are special. They get it. But everything's tighter now.
Has the length of baseball fields increased over time from Babe Ruth to now?
They're different. Like Fenway Park's the same one for 100 years, so that didn't change. Yankee Stadium always had a short wall in right field.
And that's what's interesting about the MLB. The distance to a home run is not consistent throughout these major league fields.
That's beautiful. I didn't like the old fields. The ones I didn't like started with the Houston Astrodome. These were huge fields, like it's 410 center and then 375 on the poles. You had to yank that to get out of those. I don't like those stadiums. But look, you got guys nowadays that are good, but I still love people like Roberto Clemente. To me, best right fielder of all time.
Which stadium is it? Boston, the one that has the river behind that everyone.
No, that's
kayaks
San
in?
Francisco.
Okay.
Qualcomm Park, I think, or Pac
That's
Bell
always
Park.
fun too, seeing people
Yeah.
try and catch
Well, they
a
call
home
it-
run and tip in their canoes.
They're called McCovey Cove, is where they were at, because the Bonds was hitting them in
Yeah,
there.
it's just the beauty of sport, and it's so cool to get into the different eras and see how the margins slowly collapse.
No, but the thing about Ovechkin, aside from the fact that he's in there a long time,
I'm not discounting him at all.
I know that, but he's going to play longer than Gretzky to get
Yeah.
to it, and that's what people say. But that's okay. But this is where I disagree with people. LeBron's longevity got him to 40,000 points and everything else, but there's a difference. Alexander Ovechkin at 39 years old is rocking people.
He's still checking people.
Oh no! They said that he's in 3rd place for all-time checks.
Yeah.
As
Tom
a winger.
Wilson, Tom Wilson is their enforcer, but Ovechkin will still fight people.
Oh, but that's the difference, I think, between like Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby.
Sidney Crosby doesn't really fight.
And Wayne Gretzky. Ovechkin will go.
Mm-hmm.
He will go.
He doesn't give a.
And he's a
fuck.
beast, man.
He does not care.
He's 39.
Yeah.
And he's leading. He's a great player. So I think we had the opportunity to see, like you saw John Riggins when you were younger.
Yeah.
John Riggins, for the system he was the man.
Or I saw Johnny Bones when he was coming up.
Johnny Bones. I saw Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
I saw Magic Johnson. I saw, Michael Jordan. I saw Kobe. I saw Shaq. I saw Larry Bird, Dr. J, George Gervin. These guys are special. Ovechkin is special.
Yeah. I wonder, and I'll end with this, I wonder if these guys in the offseason are taking stem cells and stuff.
Why not? It's not illegal.
Yeah.
All right.
All the UFC fighters do it for injuries.
Yeah, it's okay. And some of them are on TRT. They got a medical reason, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not high levels, but it's just to
Yeah.
get them to normal.
But that's why Conor McGregor still isn't in the testing pool, because I think he's been doing roids for a while now, man.
Yeah. Oh, and he said he's going to run for the president of Ireland.
I think he's got a chance.
Well, he's got it. Everybody's got a
Did
chance.
you see how everyone knew he was just a cokehead asshole, but he's always talked about how shitty Ireland's become because of the mass immigration. Man, I think he's got a chance in Ireland, but it was funny seeing him at the White House, how he lost so many fans just associating himself with Trump.
So what?
Trump is a cancer for any celebrity.
Unless you don't give a shit.
Unless you don't give a shit, like
Or you
Elon
can't
doesn't
get-
care,
or you
McGregor
can't-
doesn't care.
But see, McGregor is like Elon and these other guys.
Can't get to him.
They can't get canceled.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they've said all kinds of nasty
McGregor
shit
can-
about McGregor.
McGregor cannot get
No,
canceled.
they said all kinds of nasty shit.
I mean,
about
they
him.
tried
and
to
some of
say-
it's true. We don't have to go into all that, but some of it's true. But he doesn't give a shit.
He cheats on his wife. He does coke. He hits
well,
old
he's not
men in
married.
bars.
He's technically not married.
He's
is
not
he?
married. I think he's married to that
Oh,
Evelyn lady.
I didn't think they got married. But it's definitely common law.
But yeah,
look,
he's done
so
some-
it doesn't matter if you're still in a relationship, you don't cheat. But the part I'm trying to make is there's going to be a populist movement that's going to start growing in Europe. You see it coming in Greece.
Yeah.
You see it coming in Italy. You see it coming in Ireland. It's not that far away in the UK because they're getting ready to start that way again because they got all kinds of problems and migration. And the issue isn't necessarily the migrants. It's the overload of the social system or the welfare system that you have that's problematic.
Well, you see what's happening in Germany right now. There's a bunch of Muslims protesting, trying to say that we need
Sharia law. Yeah, and that's the
But
problem.
Let me say one thing about populism, and then we can go into the book. There's this one girl I listened to on YouTube. Her name is Shuan Head, and she's a populist, but she's also a socialist. But she talks about, the male loneliness epidemic, the female loneliness. I'll have to send you some of her videos
Okay.
because they align with a lot of the things we talk
Yeah.
about, and she's pretty funny.
Well, there's these.
But everyone calls her a right-wing Nazi,
Nah.
and she's a populist socialist.
Yeah, but
Here's what I'll end with. I think populism is more of a socially libertarian
it's a
movement than
national
socialism.
populism is nationalism, right?
National socialism?
No,
I'm
you're
kidding.
proud of your country. So there's this one gal in Greece who gave a fantastic speech, I think, at the EU, and there was another gal out of Italy who did the same thing. They're going to get there. They really will. Now, one last thing before we move on to the book.
What, do you
I
think the
saw
French president-
a
okay.
bunch of clips this week about how Poland is defending its border with Belarus.
I like it. They
where-
pulled a wall up, right?
Let me finish. No, they put up chain link and they put up barbed wire and all that. But let me get to it. It's even better than that. So there's hundreds and thousands of illegal migrants who are trying to get into Poland. And Belarus isn't controlling the border because they want them through Belarus, right? And Poland's president has made it clear, no one comes in our country illegally.
Yep.
Now, keep in mind, he said, and people forget this. They say, you don't like immigrants. He goes, no. We want the right people, and we want it to come the right way. They got over 250 to 350,000 Ukrainians in their country right now, and they're doing the right thing. But what I loved was, except for the fence and the barbed wire and everything else,
think I know where
these
you're going.
people were like trying to break in and so forth. They set up water cannons with fire trucks all along, and they were just
That's hilarious.
nailing these guys
one
with water
thing-
cannons.
Do you know that PBB guy who's Muslim who talks in his podcast set with all the lockers that are signed? I'll have to show you him. You know him. He's a fintech guy, but he's a multimillionaire.
Oh, the guy on the West Coast?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's sharp.
So the president of Poland went on there
Okay.
and was talking about attempted illegal immigration into his country because one of a member of his military was killed by illegal immigrants
Well,
trying to pass the border.
there ain't nobody coming.
So he said, "Now, if you go over the border, we're gonna shoot to kill. We will kill you."
But look, listen.
And I love it.
But
And
here,
look how great Poland's doing.
so this is the one thing I'll say, and this is where the liberal left, the Karens, the Chads, TDS, all these people don't get. If you're in your house and somebody comes through your yard, comes into your house,
Yeah.
and then gets a foothold in your house like squatters
Yeah.
and does whatever they
Or when
want,
we had to harbor the redcoats.
I think Nancy Pelosi would have them kicked out.
Yeah.
I think AOC would have him kicked out. Bernie Sanders would have him kicked out, unless it's in one of the two locations of his three houses that he's not
Well,
occupying
the thing
at the
about
time.
these people, it's not a problem for them because it doesn't affect them.
Right.
And then when you say, there have been some joke videos where they go, "Oh, I got 5 right here. Come on. She said she supports you guys. You can
Yeah.
live with her." And she's like, no.
But that's the hypocrisy. It's a hypocritical state.
Yeah.
All right. So listen, we'll go on real quick to the book chapters. The first one's going to be questioning the conventional and understanding what you put in your body. And we talked about that before. There are poisons everywhere. So I'll just go through
And some
a
of them
couple.
taste good.
You got to do your deep dive on fluoride. You got to do your deep dive on mouthwash and what that does to your cardiovascular health. And you got to watch about the hidden, problems with microplastics, water
There's
bottles,
microplastics in sperm now.
thermal receipts. You got to clean your tap water. You got to get rid of single-use plastics. We already talked about using plastic containers and heating your food in it, especially the black ones because they come from recycled electronic equipment.
Yeah.
We've talked about, your skincare products and what that does to you. Even tea bags, you got to be careful because they'll leach. I was at Starbucks this morning with your grandma, and I ended up taking my cafe americano in a mug because even the Starbucks that you think are paper, they're lined with plastic,
Yeah.
and when you put hot liquid in it, it leaches.
You got me hooked on those Cafe Americanos.
Yeah, and you really should be using glass containers to store your stuff. Be careful of your deodorants, your colognes, your perfumes.
Because the thing about aluminum deodorants is they're linked to higher levels of Alzheimer's.
Oh, without a doubt. And men your age that are looking or soon will have families, this kind of shit screws up your testosterone and all kinds of stuff.
But you got to be careful about those organic deodorants because you will still smell like shit.
Well, they don't last as long, but you got to be careful of that. I'd rather
do a spray on than a deodorant.
Yeah,
stick.
well, be careful of what you got in there. All right, then we'll go to next chapter is chapter 11, which is supplements and targeting the right nutrients to put in your body. So in the book, I'll read it real quick. These are some of the things, and you're doing this, I know, because we talked about this last week, and we got you a couple other ones. Everybody should be taking like 5 milligrams of creatine every day.
Men should be taking zinc.
Yeah, we talk about electrolytes because it helps with your hydration. We talked about omega-3 fatty acids and
Fish
understanding what you should be between 8 and 12 on the measurement. When I started like 6 months ago paying attention to this, I was like 2.8. And then I went to 3.9. Now I'm at 7.9. Next time I'm going to be where I need to be. But understand what that has to do for heart health, reducing inflammation, and supporting brain function. We both have the genetic deficiency. I gave it to you of MTHFR and how you methylate folate. Watch out for folic acid. Stay with folate. You need zinc. Zinc does a whole bunch of stuff with your immune system
And your libido.
and healing, and it helps with your testosterone. You got to get your vitamin D's level right. You need your magnesium.
Potassium.
You need your potassium
Just all
and
of them.
probiotics, and then you can play around with
Colloidal
turmeric,
silver.
turmeric or
You
ashwagandha.
can get some colloidal
nah,
silver
I don't
so
do
you
that
can turn
kind-
into that cult leader who turned blue.
Yeah, I don't do that kind of stuff. But there's basic things that people should be aware of what it does. And then that doesn't even take into account all the poison that you get from seed oils and processed food. We were talking the other day when we went through Chick-fil-A. There's 60 ingredients in a Chick-fil-A
over
sandwich.
60.
How is that possible?
Well,
It's
we were talking about
poison.
We were talking about that, and then we parlayed it to what, Shake Shack, when they said they're using beef tallow now.
Yeah.
I would love for there to be a mandate to use beef tallow now instead of vegetable oils.
That's never going to
But
happen.
what's interesting about Shake Shack is there's a conspiracy, and there's an app called Seed Oil Scout. Remember I
Yeah.
showed you? We didn't want to get it because we had to pay for it. It shows you which
Yeah.
restaurants don't use seed oil. Apparently, the fries that they fry in beef tallow are pre-made using seed oils.
Yeah, but I don't understand that. When you told me that, I didn't understand it. The fries aren't cooked before they come there. So what are they doing with the seed oil?
I don't know, but Seed Oil Scout put out a $50,000 bounty for anybody at Shake Shack to give them
Okay.
proof.
Well, but yeah. So I get that, but the part is you guys got to understand what seed oils do to your body. It causes you to put on fat. It blocks the transfer of water and nutrients into your cells and your mitochondria. You got to be really careful. But the part I wanted to say is, I don't think the government should mandate. I think the consumer should decide, right? Am I going to keep buying stuff that is poisoning me? The problem is
The poisonous
that
stuff is cheaper.
average Americans don't understand how unhealthy and how poisoned the food supply
And
is.
the average American, at least in my generation, doesn't really have enough money to go fully organic.
You don't need to go organic. Shop on the outside of the grocery store. Buy fish, buy chicken, buy beef, buy vegetables, buy fruit, buy dairy, buy cheese, buy yogurt. You do those things, you can have a healthy diet. If you just do that and stop processed food,
You don't have to
stop shit
supplement.
that comes in bags or boxes, stop shit that has all these dyes in it and all these fillers and all these preservatives and all these oils, you'll see within 2 weeks your body will see. Keep in mind, seed oils will sit in your body for 600 days
Sugar's
on
really bad
on a
too.
half. Well, sugar's a whole.
Sugar creates gut bacteria that if you don't have sugar for a few days, makes you hungry and makes you crave sugar.
Well,
but I'll say this one thing,
Sugar is a terrible thing.
and we can progress. If you want to make the first step if you're like me and most of your 20s didn't take any supplements, if you want to make the first step, don't just do a multivitamin. It'll be as simple
You
as
need a methylated multivitamin.
just go on ChatGPT and ask, I want to start using supplements. Which supplements should I take?
Well,
and
we
I
just
guarantee you,
listed 10 of them.
ChatGPT will give you something that will probably cost you $20-$30 a month.
Yeah, but the point I want to make, Alec, is that you can do all the supplements right, but if you're eating garbage, it's not going to do you much good. It'll make you better,
Yeah, it's the first step.
but you got to get rid of
You
the
start
garbage.
with the supplements, and then you wean off the garbage.
Well,
you wean off the sugar.
I would argue the other one. The first one is you got to get sleep. The second one is stop putting poison in your body. The third one is supplement for deficiencies. If you could do those things, now technically we're poisoning ourselves drinking beer, but if you got a healthy body, your body can clear that out. But if you're already in a corrupted state, it just compiles. So that's the difference.
Or, you could just make tens of millions of dollars doing mukbangs on YouTube and die at 35 abruptly.
Yeah, I watched something one time
All
of
these fat influencers are dropping
they're
dead.
all yeah, I watched an influencer actually cover like the top 5 or 6 influencers about body positivity. Now, which has become code word, so I could be a fat fuck. Listen, I was 358 pounds. I was a fat fuck.
Yeah, that's a dog whistle calling it body positivity.
Yeah, it's bullshit. But they all died before they were 35 of massive heart problems or diabetes
Because
complications.
heavyset people die quick.
Oh, yeah.
People in shape.
Well, your body's under
die
stress.
Slow.
Your body's under stress. All right, with that, we will move on. Now, this is something unique and different. I got my list. You're going to have to come up with yours.
I'm going to have to wing my list.
All right.
So you can start.
So, top 5 songs that are in my phone. I will start with number 5, Neil Young, Old Man. I love that song. Lynyrd Skynyrd, Freebird. And the reason I like that, it's a good song. Plus, every time you go through a casino and you see a band playing, you yell, any band playing, you yell out Freebird, they get pissed. But the scene in what was that one? The Gentleman, what was the
Gentleman?
No, not The Gentleman. The one with Exy.
Oh, yeah, that was the movie with the spy group, the Kingsmen.
The Kingsmen. So the scene with Sam Jackson and the guy in the Baptist, crazy Baptist church.
Their take on the Westboro Baptist Church.
For me, my number 3 song is Iron Maiden, Phantom of the Opera. Number 2 is Funkadelic, Maggot Brain. And number 1 is Stairway to Heaven. There's no doubt. I sent you a clip last week of the Kennedy Center honors when they did Led Zeppelin about 5 years ago. And Nancy Wilson and her sister from Heart, they did a rendition. I thought it was great. So that's mine. Top 5. Old Man, Freebird, Phantom of the Opera, Maggot Brain, Stairway to Heaven.
All right, I'm going to have to wing this one because I'm logged out of my Spotify account. So I'm going to have to look at what I've been playing on YouTube. But my number 5 is going to be Platinum Doug Cream. It is a EDM song.
I hate EDM.
And I think it's one of the top 5 EDM songs.
All right.
I am going to have to go with number 4 being, what is it? Stay Alive by Jose Gonzalez. I don't know if you've ever seen The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, there's a river that wants to...
Yeah, I don't know the song.
Okay, well, that song, if you're in a bad mood, it'll make you cry.
You gonna do a Donnie Darko song?
No. Number 3, I'm going to have to go with Rob Zombie, Dracula.
Okay.
Just because Shane Gillis finds it really funny, and whenever I drink, I listen to it. Number 2, I will have to go with M83 outro. You don't know what that is.
Nope.
Most of you don't know what that is, but I'll play it for you when we're done, and you'll think it's a very interesting song.
All right.
And then my number one, just because this has gotten me through a couple hurdles and a couple make or break moments in my life, is The Humbling River by Pussifier. You know, in Yellowstone,
Yeah.
when he was talking to the guy who ended up becoming the dude who rode bulls.
Yeah.
That song played at the end of that episode.
Okay.
Nature, nurture.
Oh yeah. That's a good song. I know that song.
Why can't I cross this river?
Yeah,
But
good.
I mean, that's my top 5 of what I'm listening to.
Yeah, that's fine.
None of them are top 5 songs.
Right.
But I will play you that M83 outro when I'm done with this episode. And I do want to give an honorable mention to...
Well, while you're thinking, I'll give an honorable
that
mention
girl,
to the
what is
Spinners
her
for the
name?
Rubber Band Man.
That's a good... Talk more about the Rubber Band Man, because it's going to take a second
Well,
for me to
no.
realize it.
They actually played that in Guardians of the Galaxy, if I'm not mistaken, which is a perfect lead-in to the next series we had, because that's your honorable mention.
Shit, who's the person that lives next to... Who lives next to Bono? She's this Scottish singer.
Not Sinead O'Connor. I thought she
No.
died.
She lives in a castle and she doesn't tour.
I don't know. Adele. All right,
No.
let's move on to the
Let's
next
see what
one. We're gonna
ChatGPT has to
run
say.
out of time. We can't sit here and do that.
Yeah, it's...
All right.
But she has a really great song that I
All
like
right.
too.
The next one is our top 5 superheroes. Your turn to go first.
I go first.
And remember, your honorable mention was Star-Lord.
Yes. My honorable mention is Star-Lord, just because Chris Pratt,
He plays that well.
he plays it well. I like him in that one Amazon Prime
Terminal
TV
List?
show, Terminal List. That's a great
That's a
TV
good
show.
series.
When we start running out of movies, we should start talking about TV shows.
Well, maybe next time we'll do the top 5 series we like.
That
Because Reacher's in there, Terminal List is in there,
Terminal List.
the original Yellowstone is in there.
Terminal List is in there.
I like The Recruit.
Invincible, actually.
Lioness is
I've
good.
teared up a couple times at Invincible, which I think, what am I, a pussy? Because I'm tearing up at a cartoon.
I don't even know about
But
that. All right,
the writing is great.
go with your top 5.
So my top 5 superheroes, I got to go with the Punisher as number 1.
No problem.
And
The
then
new
I'll
Punisher
I'll parlay that
with the guy from The
I'll parlay
Accountant.
that into Daredevil as number 4.
Okay.
Because John Bernthal is the Punisher in the Daredevil TV
Yep.
shows, and
Now, this is movies, TV shows, and comic books.
I don't advocate for you buying Disney Plus, but if you already have it, they're doing a new Daredevil season, and it's great.
Good.
It's better than the original show.
All right.
Okay. Number 3, Thor. That's no explanation there
Yeah.
necessary. Number 2, I got to go with Homelander, just because The Boys, I think, is a really
It's a good
great
series.
show. They do.
Can Homelander beat Superman?
No, I don't think so.
Can he beat Shazam? Yeah,
Yeah.
he could beat Shazam, right?
But they do hang dong
Or
too
Captain
much.
Marvel.
They do hang dong too much in Amazon Prime's The Boys. But
All right.
I got to go with Superman as number 1.
Well, I mean, nobody beats Superman.
No.
Yeah.
I
all
don't
right.
know if any superhero could theoretically beat Superman. Because Homelander is
No.
portrayed as the evil version of Superman.
Nobody can.
But I don't think Homelander could beat Superman.
I think, we should go to the Comic-Con in a couple weeks. And
Enya was who I was talking about.
okay. So we should go to a Comic-Con and ask all those geeks.
We should people watch that.
Well, we should ask them. Give us our top 5, and is anybody better than Superman? We
I
could
s-
do a little video clip on that, because you know what? The way the comic books and the movies and so forth, he's invincible.
I saw
Unless you get a kryptonite shot into him.
I saw a 20-second YouTube clip yesterday of this one dude going to Comic-Con and interviewing everybody who's there, asking them how long it took them to make their costumes. And, most of them were normal, and most of them said, a couple weeks to a couple months. But there was a couple dudes dressed like female characters, and it's...
They're almost as bad as furries.
I think... No, dude. I mean, shit. If we're going to be furries, if I would like to go undercover at a furry convention that people watch, but
Yeah.
Comic-Con would be easier.
Right.
And you thought people watching at Alien Con was nuts. We're gonna have to contain ourselves when people
Well, let's
watch at
go.
Comic-Con.
I want to go and watch that. And then the next
We're
thing
gonna
I
need
want
a secret signal because
That's fine.
we can't point.
No. So we'll go to the Comic-Con, and then I like to be invited or go to a flat earther conference
Oh,
just
my
to see how
God.
crazy those people are. But that's a whole nother deal. So let me run my list. My top 5 list of superheroes of all time. For me, honorable mention, Silver Surfer. Number 5, the Hulk. Number 5, the Hulk. Number 4 is Wolverine. Number 3 is Daredevil. For me, number 2 is Superman. And for me, the number 1 guy is Thor.
Can Thor beat Superman?
Well, he is the strongest
Can
in the
Superman
Marvel.
kill Thor
Thor can't get killed unless he rips his head off.
with his eyes?
Yeah, I guess he could,
Can
but
Superman kill Hulk?
but he probably could. That's why Superman's ahead. But my favorite doesn't mean the strongest.
No, of course not.
Thor is a god, so I think Thor's there. So I go Thor, Superman, Daredevil, Wolverine, Hulk, honorable mention, Silver Surfer.
Superman reminds me of, and this is parlaying back into Invincible, because if you have Amazon Prime, you should watch it. If you like Rick and Morty, he used to think all adult cartoons were for children, but I've slowly indoctrinated him into Rick and Morty.
I didn't think that.
But okay, most of them you didn't like or you were above them. Instead of like Family Guy and South Park.
All
But
right.
I got you to like Rick and Morty. I might need to get you into Invincible because
right.
it's really good.
I'll give it a shot. All right,
And
Nick.
there's a guy named Omni-Man in Invincible, and he reminds me of Superman. He's a guy that comes to Earth from a planet where everybody has superpowers, and everybody pales in comparison to him. Dude, we could go as long as we
All
want.
right. The next section is Book of the Week. Mine is Dogs of War by John LeClaire. It's a book from the 70s. Christopher Walken's in the movie. It is a great movie. The book is even better.
Can you do a Christopher Walken accent?
No.
Oh, Christopher Walken.
Nah, you can't
I'll
do
have
it
to
either.
practice
All right,
it.
what's your book?
All right, so my book is Bushido, The Soul of Japan, which is written by Inazo Nitobe. But what I find very interesting about the Bushido Code, it's akin to when I mentioned the Book of 5 Rings, the
Right.
5 things you have to think about. The Bushido Code talks about the 7
Basic virtues.
and these virtues are rectitude, courage, benevolence, politeness, sincerity, honor, and loyalty.
There you go. Good qualities to have. Great qualities to have. You got to work at them.
Qualities I still aspire to have.
You got to aspire to them every day. But as long as you have a code and you move forward, you're okay.
I know girls write little notes on their mirrors to pep them up in the morning. Something like this would be something a man
Yeah, you
should
look
write
at it
on
every
his
day.
mirror.
I don't
These
disagree.
are things you should aspire to be every day.
All right, so we're going to go with movies of the week. Now, yours, once you go first, because then it blows into mine as it relates to an American retake of it.
That's a good
So
point.
go
and
yours.
We could talk about how that works. So staying in the same theme of feudal Japan and samurais, I love Kurosawa movies.
Yeah?
I got introduced to them
A
in
university,
college
right?
just from my own research.
Yep.
I don't care that they're black and white and they're old. Or
No,
they're
no, but the
dubbed.
cinematography of a movie
The
from their
cinematography-
50s or 60s, that movie came out.
And I don't care about stuff being dubbed ever since we lived
Nah.
in Singapore for a year. But my favorite Kurosawa movie is Seven Samurai.
It's the best. I think that's a top 5 movie of mine of all time.
Of all time. I think his second,
Underrated.
Very underrated. I think his second best movie is Yojimbo. But the story of Seven Samurai and how 7 samurai, obviously is the name,
Defend the town,
village
the
from
village.
a bunch of bandits and Ronin.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
The character development, the cinematography, the storytelling, the flow of the movie, it's fantastic.
And if you guys have never gotten into Korean
They're
horror or
Korean horror?
Japanese samurai movies, those are 2 things you're really missing out on.
Yeah, if you look at the best, just do a Google search or a ChatGPT search. Now mine.
Remember that real quick? Remember that Old Boy movie I saw made you watch?
No.
I made you watch it down here.
Well,
But
remember.
Old Boy's a really good Korean suspense movie.
Okay.
But that's my movie.
So the link is the 7 Samurai. We talked about this last week or the week before. the Magnificent Seven with Yul Brynner. Now, Yul Brynner was in the original Westworld,
Oh,
which the series was actually pretty good.
it kind of sucked after
But
the third
but
season.
you need to watch the original movie and keep in mind that it came out in the mid '70s. Everything else being equal, but it was still a great movie. And Yul Brynner in Westworld was a bald gunfighter, and he was the bad guy.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure who it is. But with the Magnificent Seven, for me, my movie of the week, I think now. I do believe Clint Eastwood's best Western movie is Unforgiven. I really do. But the movie I have this week is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, with shit.
Clint Eastwood,
Yeah, Clint Eastwood, and I forgot the other
the
two.
man with no name.
Yeah, the other two. That's a great one. All right, we'll go to the wrap up. We'll go for our bitch of the week. You want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
Dude, we don't have to speed up.
Okay.
I would like you to go first.
All right, my bitch of the week is Tim Walz. We touched on him earlier in the beginning. Vice presidential candidate. All the goofy, stupid shit he was saying with his interview with Gavin Newsom. I like the fact that he said that he could kick any Republican's ass, and he challenged him to like a WWE event. So Kane,
Yeah.
who's the mayor of a town in Tennessee, said, "Let's go. Charitable
The Red
event.
Monster?
We'll go 50-50. I'll put 10,000 down."
When you first told me that, I was laughing my ass off.
I saw
That
somebody.
guy's like 5'9".
He's an idiot. He's just stupid. His comments sitting there talking about how he loves Tesla stock going down. He's got a pension fund for state employees that just lost $250 million because of that nonsense. He's an idiot. And the comments he makes and the shit he says and the lies he tells, and then he talks about not being, the conservative movement's picking on him for not being a real man. But I hearken you back to 12 months ago where he said he was a real man with all the characteristics that they're giving him shit for. So he's a buffoon. Now, I did see a meme where they said Kane and Tyrus
Tyrus would step on him.
against Tim Walz and Gavin Newsom.
That wouldn't even be fair.
No,
Kane and Tyrus could just sit on them, and it would be over.
dude, those look, Tim Walz ain't gonna get in there with Kane.
I think I could kill Tim Walz.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. And I'm pretty sure
And I
I could
have
take
minimal
Newsom. I'm pretty
training.
sure I could take Newsom.
I think all you have to do is, so Shane Gillis had this funny bit where Joe Biden was the first president you could punch assassinate. Like, "Hi, Mr. President." That's
The 1-inch punch. All right, who you got? Because yours is pretty good. Because I thought this guy was okay, but I saw him go fucking crazy. And then the Trump derangement
Before
syndrome.
I get into it, because we have all the time in the world. Isn't Tim Walz a CNN contributor now or something?
No, I don't think so.
He's been on.
He's trying to reinvent
he's-
himself.
He's been on the shows, but I gotta find out. Do they, all those news people on the left, do they all get a weekly newsletter that gives them their talking points?
I believe so.
Because they all echo the same things.
Yeah, they do.
And to what you were saying about him not caring about that fund losing money, these people have such tunnel vision
Yeah.
on their hatred for Trump.
Yep.
They don't care about the ramifications of their actions or lack thereof.
Right. And that just tells you how unstable they are.
And can you imagine how bad we would have been if these people had another 4 years?
Oh, it'd be crazy.
We'd be screwed. We'd be on the brink of World War III, for
but-
real.
I'm glad the American people has said enough is enough.
Yeah.
And this goes back to one of those shorts we did. It's like the parental divorce, right? Yeah,
That
Dad's
one
got
got good numbers.
Dad's got to come back and fix the problem. All
So
right,
my
who's
bitch
yours?
of the week, I am very fond of stand-up comedians. I think you need a sense of humor in this grim world. I enjoy dark comedy. This guy used to be one of my top
Yeah, because
5.
his cartoon was great.
His cartoon was great. That's giving it away. I'll say it eventually. But you need to have a dark sense of humor to survive in this current landscape. But my bitch of the week is Bill Burr.
Yep.
He has just fallen off the wagon and gone full liberal as of late.
Yeah, and crazy full liberal in some of the comments he has.
I mean, for example, saying Trump is a Nazi who can't pull attractive women, but if
No,
Trump
that's
is a
not
Nazi,
true.
if Trump
Neither
is
comment's true.
if Trump is a Nazi, buddy, what about the picture of your last stand-up special when you're doing this?
Yeah.
Huh?
Well, what they forget is
They're so isolated in their
Trump-
echo chambers.
Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is Jewish. His daughter, Ivanka, converted to Judaism.
Believe me, I know. Trump allegedly converted to Judaism 4 years ago as well.
Well, I don't believe that to be true, but it doesn't matter. Their commentary is just it's tired, and it's the same bullshit talking points that they've been using for the last 48 years. And common sense Americans, that kind of bullshit nonsense doesn't resonate. It doesn't resonate.
They just want to pay their bills, and they don't want to be fucked with.
It doesn't resonate. And this spewing of hate and saying the same shit over and over again, people don't give a shit.
All this virtue signaling is overplayed, man. And
Right.
it only really matters to the people who are so rich and don't have to work and have nothing to do with their lives.
But we go back to what we said before. I really don't give a shit what comedians or actors and politicians say. I make up my own mind based on the facts. And that's a different thing. The liberal left does not follow facts. They do not follow data. They do not look at ramifications.
And that ties back into your conversation with your mother today.
Yep.
They just are liberal sounding
Right.
boards. They just echo what they heard on TV.
Right.
They don't do any of their own research.
Well, she had all this anger about egg prices are up. I'm like, no, they're not. They're actually half of what they were 60 days ago. So do your research.
And
No. I'm like, oh, come on.
Here's the thing about
And then the shit about measles and how they're all concerned about measles. And there's been 4 deaths, but there's been, 500,000 deaths due to fentanyl. But nobody gives a shit about
and a ton
that.
of deaths due to illegal immigrants raping and murdering.
Yeah, and nobody
people.
gives a shit about that.
So here's my opinion, my personal opinion. Liberalism will take everything at face value and run with it. I personally will do my own research. I even sometimes go to CNN after I hear something from Fox to find the middle ground. I don't agree with everything Trump does. I don't agree with everything the Republican Party does. I think a lot of Republicans nowadays are still rhinos. I formulate my own opinions on a case-by-case basis.
That's the key. That's the key. You take, and we talked about this last week, and it was one of the clips that did real well. To be able to argue intelligently and to debate, you have to be able to understand both sides of the conversation and come to a point. Seek first to understand and then to be understood. That's one of Stephen Covey's 7 habits of highly effective people.
Yes,
and we talked about that. And people forget that. And they're just parroting. They're just parroting. And when you ask them to explain it after the surface,
it's done.
They get lost. They become emotional.
I think it's a lost art form because I think you can agree with me in the sense that if I'm having a healthy debate with somebody, I understand where they're coming from. And I want them to understand where I'm coming from. And maybe we'll reach a compromise.
That's how it should be.
On the other side, they die on every hill.
Yep.
And if you disagree with them,
you're
a racist.
Yep.
You're a misogynist.
Or Islamophobe.
You're a Nazi.
Yeah.
You're xenophobic.
Right.
You're a Nazi.
Yep.
I said that twice.
But
you're
or a chauvinist or whatever it is. But that's the problem. They resort to name calling because if you can't agree with them 100%, then you're wrong. No. You could both have a different opinion and come from a different perspective.
But we can learn from each other.
But that's the point. And that was the one thing I said with your grandma is that I'm a product of the 80s. And for me, I got to see Ronald Reagan, right? And you had the ability in the olden time, 40 years ago, to have meaningful dialogue with your counterparts on the other side and respect each other, understand each other's opinion, and you build the framework for a logical debate or conversation. That has vacated our culture.
It turns into a shouting match and a dick measuring contest.
And for me, that is the biggest fear I have for where we are as a culture right now in a society. We have lost the ability to be civil to each other. Mm-hmm. We have lost the ability to have dialogue and have constructive conversations. And when that happens, all kinds of things fall out.
What's funny about the left is because I have friends on both sides, and I have friends in both groups who interact with each other. And I have Republican friends who introduce me to their liberal friends, and I'm cordial with them. And, I have surface level conversations with them, and everything's polite. And then when I go home, I get texts from my Republican friends that say, my liberal friend didn't have a problem with you. He enjoyed hanging out with you, but he doesn't like your policies, and he was talking behind your back about you.
That's how it happens.
And I go, I don't care.
But that's how it happens.
But that's what they do.
Yeah.
They won't say it to your face. They'll go behind
Cowards.
you. Yeah.
Or they resort to name calling and doing all kinds of nonsense.
Or they'll try and in the shadows ruin you
Yeah.
or
Well,
take
that's what they do.
opportunities away from you.
That's absolutely the case. All right. Well, with that, we have finished up episode 14 on the 22nd of March. Thank you so much for your time.
I only got one more thing to say.
Yeah.
Wash your hands.
Yeah. And that's from Tom Segura. And what is it? Your Mama's House or something?
Yeah, but he also went crazy after he called all his fans pores.
Yeah, but this is, you could buy the
This
shirt.
is wood. You could buy this shirt. This guy
Supports
is a meme
his-
if you know him, but the proceeds go to his
widow. Yeah. So it's a good thing to do. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Take care.
Bye.
Disclaimer for Generations Unplugged with Big Kel and Kahuna. This is a podcast created for informational and entertainment purposes only. The views expressed in this podcast reflect the personal experiences and opinions of the hosts and guests. Topics like health, fitness, financial well-being, and personal development are discussed based on individual perspectives and are not intended as professional medical, financial, or psychological advice. Listeners are encouraged to consult with qualified professionals before making decisions related to health, lifestyle, or finances. Each person's journey is unique, and results may vary. The creators of Generations Unplugged disclaim any liability for actions taken based on the content of this podcast. Remember, informed decisions and expert guidance are key to building a fulfilling and balanced life.